prints and fingerprints. Young lady, don't do this to yourself. Don't ruin yourself, young lady. Young lady, don't go into that house of horror. Depression, shame, nightmares. You will be wounded for the rest of your life. Glorify Christ Jesus the King.
I know what you might be thinking. Who is this woman? She chases people on the street.
Can I give you? Yes, but explains why we're here with these awful pictures.
Runs after cars.
Hey, can I give you information?
And calls out randomly in front of this San Diego abortion clinic.
Susan Smith sits in a prison for years now.
Her name is Heather Mechanic, and before you write her off as an extremist, you've got to hear the rest of the story.
Women who regret the suffering, not just the destruction of their child, but their suffering. Years and years, depression, shame, guilt, suicide thinking.
It's that message that women come to regret their abortions, that they didn't know what they were doing, that in the end, abortion hurts women, that is making its way into the abortion debate. It's even found its way into the Supreme Court.
This is Peter with ProLifeNews.tv and NationalProLifeRadio.net, and I'm standing in front of the Supreme Court. Today, the partial birth abortion ban was upheld.
In April, the Supreme Court upheld a nationwide ban on a specific second and third term abortion procedure. It was a decision anti-abortion groups applauded and abortion rights groups lamented. The procedure was first banned in 2003. Even the name of the procedure causes controversy. Its legal name is partial birth abortion, the medical term intact dilation and extraction, and its very description can be gruesome. It's a procedure the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists says is medically necessary for some women. It accounts for less than 1% of all abortions, yet this procedure has managed to renew the abortion debate and arguably give momentum to the anti-abortion movement. It also invoked a Supreme Court justice to give credibility to a faction of that movement that until now was crying out from the far-right fringe. Justice Anthony Kennedy wrote the majority opinion. Here's the section that has given one group of women validation while outraging another. He writes, "While we find no reliable data to measure the phenomenon, it seems unexceptionable to conclude some women come to regret their choice to abort the infant life they once created and sustained. Severe depression and loss of self-esteem can follow." He went on to say, "It is self-evident that a mother who comes to regret her choice to abort must struggle with grief more anguished and sorrow more profound when she learns only after the event what she once did not know, that she allowed a doctor to pierce the skull and vacuum the fast-developing brain of her unborn child, a child assuming the human form."
Abortion hurts women. It damages. I wish I had not met the thousands and the ones that I have personally counseled in my workshop that even if they were 100% pro-choice, have regretted their abortions and have just been so wounded by it. And I don't like to see, as a woman, I don't like to see women hurt this way. I just can't bear that between those two, women and children. So I don't think that's extreme at all, not at all.
Heather Mechanic is a nurse, a former major in the reserves, a family therapist, and a longtime anti-abortion activist. In 1970, while living in New York City as a single mom, Mechanic got pregnant and had an abortion. She says she suffered years of depression, shame, and guilt. She became anti-abortion after becoming a born-again Christian 20 years ago.
Every single one, whether they're pro-choice or post-abortion or pro-life, take the position of regret and guilt and shame. And it's rare that they can admit it. They can even talk about it. So when you say I was left with shame, unfortunately, it's not just I. It's like so many women.
Were you adequately informed to the nature and consequences of abortion? No, I wasn't informed. I drank heavily, lost all respect for myself. It's affected me emotionally over the years. Were you informed of a link between abortion and breast cancer? No. I've experienced increased regret, guilt, shame, and deep depression. I attempted suicide about 4 months after my abortion and cut myself and wrote in my blood on the bathroom wall these words, "I killed my baby."
This is Karen Strong. She is the National Director of Operation Outcry.
Were you adequately informed of the nature of abortion? No.
She's reading from the hundreds of affidavits her group has gathered from women who say they were victims of abortion. Some say it ruined their marriage, caused them to become drug addicts or alcoholics. The list goes on. And the stories at times are fantastical.
My friend Kathy in Kentucky, once they aborted, she had a late-term abortion, and she started crying after the abortion, and an attendant walked in. He goes, "What are you crying for? You knew what you were doing." And he grabbed her baby, because it was born intact. He grabbed her baby by the feet and said, "You knew this," and he dropped the baby in the bucket next to her bed.
Before you dismiss Karen Strong as a fanatic, you ought to know who she works for. Operation Outcry is a project of the Justice Foundation, a Texas-based group that uses lawsuits to pursue its conservative agenda. The Justice Foundation submitted a brief to the Supreme Court in the partial birth abortion case. It was the very brief Justice Kennedy referred to when he wrote that some women regret their abortion.
There are psychological and physical consequences that women are not informed of, and they need to be informed. And there are real consequences that the court needed to address, and they did. That women are truly impacted by this. And yes, there are always some women who say, well, I wasn't impacted. But there are those of us who say, well, yes, we were. And so it's our voices need to be heard. Oh, you're fast. Okay, give me 5.
Karen Strong is a single mom with a 6-year-old daughter in North Hollywood. She says she's had 4 abortions. She's an evangelical Christian. I mean, are these just sort of women who got messed up and now looking for something to kind of pin it on?
No, I don't think you can generalize all the women that have, I mean, I can't speak for all the women, but I don't think you can generalize like that and say, because that's not everyone's experience. You know, Jackie didn't become an alcoholic. Jackie just cannot ever have children as a result of her abortion. She didn't become a drug addict. She wasn't suicidal.
But the brief that was submitted listed a lot of those problems about drug abuse and alcoholism.
That's there. And a lot of these people might have had propensity to do that anyway. And then there's other people that might not have ever necessarily gone in that direction, that once they get it, and that's just it, once you cross that line and you get it, and you get what you just did, and you get it. It's not, I had an abortion, but when you get, I took the life of my child, then a lot of people will reach for other things to deaden that.
There have been studies into whether such a thing as post-abortive syndrome exists, including a 1989 review by C. Everett Koop. Koop was the Surgeon General during the Reagan years, and he was anti-abortion. His study found there to be no evidence to either support or refute post-abortive syndrome. Neither the American Psychological or Psychiatric Associations recognize the disorder.
How has your abortion affected you? I never drank or did any kind of drugs before that time. I considered suicide, and subconsciously I was trying to kill myself in other ways.
Karen Strong wants abortion banned in every case, no exceptions, not for rape or incest, not for a severely deformed fetus. She wants the law to protect women from themselves. She believes if abortion had been illegal, she would not have had 4.
I was going to do whatever I was going to do, but if it was illegal and it was murder, I mean, have you ever wanted to choke somebody? Sure, but hey, I don't want to go to jail, you know?
But what you're arguing is make a law that doesn't let me do something that I want to do, so I don't do it. Why not just you don't do it?
Well, you know what? The reality is those laws work. We have stop signs, and they prevent lots of accidents. Sometimes I feel like speeding, but I stop at the red light. The rules in place for a reason. In this case, they would be in place to protect unborn children. And basically women from not knowing what they're getting into. Because a lot of women, should they? Yes. Do they? They don't. They just don't all do that.
Both Karen Strong and Heather Mechanic deny their personal guilt or grief motivates their very public crusades. Are they extremists?
No, not at all. Not what is extreme is killing a child. Child abuse is an extremist.
Please. Respect yourself.
Fringe or fanatical, it may be a moot point now that their point of view has creeped its way into the national debate and found credence in a Supreme Court decision. It just may be the fringe is having the last laugh.
Not on the fringe anymore. Well, maybe it's a good thing they didn't pay attention to us for a while. You know, we've been focusing on trying to help women, And what do I say to them? Well, we're not going anywhere. I'll say that.
Tomorrow on Full Focus, we'll hear from the other side.
I felt relieved. I was very, very relieved.
And how the abortion rights movement is reacting to the Supreme Court decision.
So by taking away choices, this is somehow going to help women's lives. What a paternalistic view of women's capabilities to make decisions about their own lives.